Number 3. Pluto's Gate, Pamukkale, Turkey. In 2013, an archaeologist was reconstructing the route of a thermal spring. He discovered Greco-Roman ruins in southwestern Turkey. The archaeologist Francisco D'Andrea found the remains of a temple, a pool, and steps leading into a cave. When he was excavating, he saw birds fly by the opening of the cave, and the birds would drop dead. The temple columns had an inscription with a dedication to the gods of the underworld, Pluto and Cayo. Cayo, also known as Persephone, was the Greek goddess of agriculture and ruled the underworld with her husband, Pluto, also known as Hades. The cave's opening was considered the gate to their home, Hell. The cave used to be in the ancient Greek city of Hierapolis. It's now called Pamukkale. The city was given to Rome in 133 BC by a Greek general. Under the rule of the Romans, the city flourished and temple and theaters popped up around the hot springs. Pluto's Gate became a popular destination for pagans until the 4th century AD. Pilgrims slept near the cave to receive visions and prophecies. The fumes from the caves would cause hallucinations. It turned out that the fumes were toxic. Pilgrims could buy small birds and test out the toxicity of the air. They'd put the birds near or in the cave, and they would die quickly. People would gather near the cave in the mornings and watch priests stand on the steps leading to the cave's opening. The priests would then walk inside the cave with a bull. A short time later, they would walk out with the dead body of the bull. People thought it was a miracle that the priests could survive being inside the cave, but the animals could not. It made the priests look like they had divine powers. Greek geographer and historian Strabo wrote about these sacrifices. He wrote, "This space is full of a vapor so misty and dense that one can scarcely see the ground. Any animal that passes inside meets instant death. I threw in sparrows, and they immediately breathed their last and fell." People thought that the vapor was the breath of Cerberus, the multi-headed dog that guarded the underworld. Pluto's Gate disappeared in the 6th century AD after Christians destroyed it. In 2013, archaeologists found a 3-headed marble statue of Cerberus in the thermal springs. About 5 years later, researchers discovered what makes up the deadly vapor in the cave. It's carbon dioxide. At dawn, the concentration of carbon dioxide would have been strong enough to kill animals and humans. As it got warmer throughout the day, the gas would have dissipated. At night, the gas would collect on the floor around the cave because it's heavier than oxygen. So the priests were tall enough to avoid dying from the toxic fumes when they led the bulls into the cave. Today, Hierapolis, Pamukkale is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's a popular tourist destination along with nearby hot springs and other ruins. Number 2. Actun Tunichil Muknal Cave, Cayo District, Belize. Belize is a country in Central America. It's situated on Mexico's southern border and it's north of Guatemala. In 1889, scientist Thomas Miller was in western Belize near the city of San Ignacio. He was studying the formation of caves. He jumped into a river in the Taper Mountain Nature Reserve and swam into an unnamed cave. The cave was a maze of limestone passageways and chambers. Inside those chambers were bones and ceramics that gave a window into the Maya people. The Maya people believed that the cave was an entrance to their underworld called Shabalaba. Shabalaba translates to place of fright. The Lord of Death lives there, along with monsters specializing in starvation, pain, and disease. The underworld has rivers of blood and poisonous scorpions. In Maya mythology, these demons were defeated by the hero twins. The Maya people continued to offer sacrifices to the gods to appease them, especially in troubled times. The Maya people suffered from drought, especially around 900 AD. So they used this cave to offer human sacrifices to Shak, the Mayan rain god. After the cave was rediscovered by Thomas Miller, it was named Actun Tunichil Muknal, or ATM. The name translates to Cave of the Crystal Sepulchre in Mayan. A sepulchre is a tomb or burial place. The cave got that name because of a skeleton that's on the floor of one of the chambers. She's known as the Crystal Maiden. She was about 20 years old when she died. Her skeleton is on its back with its right arm facing up and bent 90 degrees at the elbow. Her left arm is bent down. She has 2 crushed vertebrae from a single blow to the back. She's just one of 7 adult skeletons inside the cave who died as a human sacrifice. There are also skeletons of 7 children who were used as human sacrifices. One of the adult skeletons has a cracked skull, so it's believed that the man most likely died from a blow to the head. He had a flat forehead and teeth with holes, which tells archaeologists that he was a Mayan elite. It was high fashion to have a flat forehead. The Maya people would make their foreheads flat by attaching a board to a baby's forehead while their skull was still soft. The upper middle class Mayans would drill holes in their teeth and then place precious stones in the holes. For human sacrifices, Mayans would behead their victims, break their spines, and pull out their still beating hearts. Mayan people thought the more elite the human sacrifice was, the better chances were of getting Shak's attention and stopping the drought. The cave also has food sacrifice rooms and cave altars. Cave altars were used during water ceremonies. During the ceremonies, upper-class Mayans would cut themselves with sharp rocks, and they would collect their blood in pots. Also in the cave are broken ceremonial cooking pots. Mayans would break the pots at the end of the ceremony to release the pot's spirit. Today, the ATM cave attracts archaeologists and tourists. Tour companies guide people through because it's not easily accessible. To get there, you have to go through the Central American jungle, swim into the cave, walk for 3 miles through deep water, climb on slippery rocks, and squeeze through limestone walls. Number 1. Bobby Mackey's Music World, Kentucky, USA. Bobby Mackey's Music World is a nightclub in Wilder, Kentucky that also offers ghost tours. The club has a dark history with links to the occult. In the 1800s, the building was used as a slaughterhouse. In the late 1800s, the site attracted satanic worshippers who met in the abandoned building once the slaughterhouse was shut down. In the 1930s and 40s, the building was a casino. Eventually, the owner was forced out by the mob. New owners took over and were repeatedly arrested on gambling charges during the 1950s. Then it became a Hard Rock Cafe. But the Hard Rock Cafe closed in January 1978 after several people were shot dead on the site. Bobby Mackey is a country music singer, and he had no desire to own a nightclub. But then he fell in love with the 2-story clapboard building. He had never been in the building before, but he felt deja vu when he entered it. He and his wife, Janet, bought the building in 1978. From the start, Janet felt that there was something evil inside. Not long after they bought it, a man named Carl Lawson showed up. He said he used to work in the building, and he offered to help, so the Mackeys hired him. Carl told Janet not to worry about the ghosts because they were his friends. But this didn't sit well with Janet. Shortly after they bought the building, Janet, who was pregnant, was attacked by an invisible force. She was sweeping the floor in the main ballroom. A ladder that was against the wall started violently shaking, and she heard someone yell, "Get out!" The ladder was falling towards her when Carl ran into the room. He moved her out of the way just before the ladder hit her. Janet was shaken by the experience. Carl then told her a disturbing story. Years earlier, he saw a young woman in the club. He thought he was alone in the building, so he asked her what she was doing there. She giggled and said she was waiting for Robert Randall to come back for her. She said her name was Joanna and Robert was her fiancé. Joanna said that her father didn't like Robert, so her father killed him. Joanna said that she died by suicide because she didn't want to live without Robert. Carl told her to leave. But Joanna said she wasn't going anywhere until Robert returned for her. And when he did, hell would break loose. Carl went to call the police, but when he turned around, Joanna had vanished. Janet was absolutely shocked by the story. Her husband, Bobby Mackey's real name is Robert Randall Mackey. Bobby is his nickname. Carl said he would smell roses in the building before something bad happened. He said that Joanna isn't evil, but there is something evil in the building. Janet asked Carl why he kept coming back to the building. He said that something kept pulling him back. He said no matter how hard he tried to stay away, he couldn't. Carl asked Janet not to tell Bobby these stories because he was afraid of being fired. A while later, Janet was attacked a second time. She was filling a bucket of water in the kitchen. Suddenly, the water turned into a black substance. Janet felt invisible arms choking her and then tried to push her head into the tar-like substance. Carl was in another room, but suddenly he smelled roses, so he knew something was wrong. He ran into the kitchen and saved Janet. Over the next few days, Carl saw glasses smashed against the wall, and he was grabbed and flung around in the air. Carl said he saw a ghost of a man with short brown hair parted on the side, and he had cold, piercing eyes. He also had a noose wrapped around his neck. Another day, Carl was in the basement when he smelled roses. He saw glowing red eyes in the mirror, and a voice said, "Leave here or die." At that same moment, Janet, who was pregnant, was pushed down the stairs by an invisible force. But luckily, she was able to grab onto the railing, saving herself and her baby. One day, a ghost behind the bar appeared to Carl. He introduced himself as Buck Brady and told Carl to go to the china room and break the floor. The china room was a big room in the basement that was lined with shelves with old dishes and cooking utensils. Buck the ghost told Carl there was an evil well under the floor and that was a gateway to and from hell. Buck said it must be sealed to trap the evil spirits in Hades where they belong. Suddenly, the ghost vanished. Carl went into the basement and broke open the floor with a pickaxe. He found a hole that looked like it had caved in. Among the rubble, he found a book. It was a diary, and it read, "My name is Joanna, and I beg you to help me. I'm a prisoner in hell. Search the spotlight room." The spotlight room was a room upstairs. In the room, Carl found the rest of the diary. In Joanna's diary, it said that her father wanted to kill her fiancé, Robert. Joanna wrote that she was pregnant with Robert's child, and they were planning on sneaking off to Chicago. But before they could leave, Joanna's father killed Robert. Her dad put Robert's body in the well in the basement, and then filled in the well with concrete. To get back at her dad, Joanna poisoned him. As he was dying, Joanna said to her father that he would rot in hell. He laughed and said he sold his soul to the devil for immortality, and he would control her in death. As Joanna watched her father die, another spirit came out of him and introduced himself as Alonzo Walling. He said he had entered Joanna's father's body, took control of him, and made him kill Robert. Alonzo's ghost told Joanna that he wanted to make pregnant women suffer. He said he had buried a woman's head in the well as a blood sacrifice to Lucifer. Her name was Pearl Bride, and she was 22 when she was pregnant. The father was Scott Jackson, an alleged member of an occult group who performed sacrifices in Bob Mackey's Music World just after it was a slaughterhouse. On February 1st, 1896, Pearl made plans to meet with Jackson and his roommate, Alonzo Walling. She was 5 months pregnant at the time. Jackson didn't want to have a baby, so he tried to perform an abortion himself. He used chemicals and then dental tools. Then he and Walling decided to kill her. They drove to a secluded spot and severed her head with the dental tools. A doctor who later examined the body determined she was alive when she was beheaded because of the blood splatter on the leaves. Her body was found 2 miles from the slaughterhouse. Her head has never been found. Walling and Jackson were found guilty in 1897 and hanged. They refused to say where the head ended up. Just before he was hanged, Walling threatened to come back and haunt the area after he died. Carl was worried that these ghosts were trying to lure Bobby into the basement so they could kill him. In an effort to save his boss, Carl met with a clairvoyant. She told him to pour holy water over the well. As he did, an invisible hand tried to pull him away from the well. Then he saw a ball of fire shoot up from the well. He saw a goat man demon in the flames, and then he passed out. When he regained consciousness, the ghost of Joanna appeared to him and told him he had sealed the well. For a year after that, nothing demonic happened in the building. Then one night, Carl heard scratching inside the walls, footsteps, and banging. He heard a gunshot, and then the anniversary waltz played from the jukebox. Invisible hands then started choking him. Carl ran out of the building and went to a church to get more holy water. When he returned to the nightclub, he encountered a red-eyed demon with billowing smoke around it. It had yellow fangs with drool coming out of its mouth. Carl stared into its eyes as the holy water boiled. Suddenly, Carl was possessed. By this point, Bobby and Janet had multiple employees who told them they had all experienced strange and unusual phenomenon. So Bobby called his friend who knew a minister. After the call, the demon possessing Carl tried to drown him in the bathtub to prevent an exorcism. While Carl's head was being held underwater by an unseen force, Carl opened his eyes and saw the face of Alonzo Walling, the spirit. Alonzo said to him, "Tell that preacher to piss off. Then bow to Satan or die." Carl said, "I bow," as he swallowed what was now red blood in the bathtub. Alonzo let him go, and Carl ran downstairs. At that moment, a reverend and a minister were at the front door. They were there to perform a surprise exorcism. A few voices started speaking through Carl, saying that they weren't leaving. Carl started violently shaking, and a voice within him yelled, "This body is mine." Carl then got on all fours and started growling viciously. The lights flickered and the doors banged loudly around them. The minister wrestled Carl to the floor, put his hand on his head, and prayed loudly. Alonzo's spirit came through Carl. Alonzo said that Pearl's head was under the floor they were all standing on. The minister kept yelling prayers louder and louder and commanding the demon to leave. Suddenly, Carl's body went limp and the room went silent. Carl came to and said he felt a burden lifted off him. He ran into the china room and saw that the well was sealed again. but the hauntings haven't stopped. Even today, bar stools move on their own, water faucets turn on by themselves, and doors open on their own. Someone made fun of ghosts and ended up unconscious in the men's bathroom. When the paramedics arrived, he said that the ghost of Alonzo Walling attacked him. The man sued Bobby Mackey for the attack, but was dismissed. On the advice of Bobby's lawyer, he placed a sign on the front door warning guests that it's haunted and management assumes no liability. Today, Bobby Mackey offers paranormal tours and boasts the title of the most haunted nightclub in America. Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you found it interesting. If you did find it interesting, please make sure you subscribe. We'll have a new video about the paranormal every week. If you just discovered this channel, please make sure you check out our other channel, Criminally Listed. We have over 325 videos featuring bizarre but true crime stories. You can find it at youtube.com/criminallylisted. We also have a podcast about cold cases that were eventually solved called Criminally Listed Presents Into the Killing. You can find it on Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, and anywhere you find great podcasts. But that's all for today. Thanks again for watching.